Thank you very much. Welcome, all of you that are on the telephone lines. Let me just find out who we have. Dave McDonald, you there?
I am.
Peter?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
Ann?
She'll be here around 7.
Ann's going to be around 7. Lisa?
Yes.
Thank you. And Art's here. Who else do we have online that I didn't call out?
Jennifer Charbonneau.
Patty White's online.
Pardon me?
Patty White is online.
Patty, welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Jennifer Charbonneau.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Hi, Jennifer.
Okay, before we begin, I just want to say that tonight is going to be an exercise in flexibility and our ability to get through this meeting. We do not have a live feed, so those of you that are on the telephones that are trying to watch this on your computers as a live feed, you're not going to see that tonight. We had our technical people got home before the storm hit, and so the live feed's not going to happen. So you're going to have to watch things through your computer, laptop, presentations, and so on. Okay, so I'm going to call this to order, and we're going to rise for our new version of O Canada. Those of you online probably won't see it. That was a nice change.
Yes.
And having Trustee McAllister sing in my other ear, you got a nice voice on you. Wow, thank you. That was all right. Okay, I'm going to ask the director to do a roll call, please.
Trustee Buckland?
Present.
Trustee Cartner?
Present.
Trustee Garrow? I heard you earlier. Trustee Garrow? Trustee McPherson? These are the Christmas concerts tonight. Trustee McAllister?
Present.
Second Vice McDonald?
Present.
First Vice McMillan?
Present.
Trustee McCray to join us at 7. Chair Peters regrets. Trustee Richards?
Present.
Trustee Swan?
Present.
And Student Trustee Tyler Harper is at a Christmas concert at a school tonight.
Thank you very much, Director. We have one item removed from the agenda. That's the Bus Driver Appreciation Award. So I need a motion that the Upper Canada District School Board approve the consent agenda items as amended. Trustee Buckland, seconded by Trustee Cartner. And I will ask you to vote, and I'm going to turn to Lisa. Oh, turn right around and see it. Okay.
Yeah, David, Peter, I'm back on.
Hi, Peter.
Yes. It's not coming up there? You're in favor, I assume?
I'm in favor.
Okay. That carries. Conflict of interest. Do we have any conflict of interest on the line? Seeing there are none, need a motion to move into Committee of the Whole by Trustee Cartner, seconded by Trustee McAllister. Cast your votes, please. Not getting it.
Is there any reason mine isn't coming up, please?
Did you refresh your screen?
Oh.
You might need to go back out and then come back in.
Okay. So that carries, thank you. Okay, the first item that we have is another one of our school presentations. Trustees, I remind you that last meeting when we had a presentation, we did a wonderful job at focusing on the critical success factors, keeping the discussion and questions at that level. I ask you again to, when you look at the audit report, to use that as information for yourself, but that is not the presentation. And again, focus your questions on the critical success factors. And I'm going to ask the director to introduce Williamstown Public School.
Jennifer, I know you're on the line. I heard your voice before. Welcome. And aren't we pleased that we have the ability that you can be out there about 125 kilometers away and make your presentation to the board. I had the privilege to see the presentation the other day, and I know that this is going to be a very well received, and the heartfelt work of the Principal Charbonneau will be appreciated. This is a high-performing school on our board. It's probably one of the top schools in the province of Ontario. Don't want to put any pressure on this, but Trustee Buckman is also extremely proud of the work there. So I'll turn this over to you, Principal Charbonneau, and again, congratulations where you're at, and I look forward to your presentation and the trustees' questions. I'll turn it over to you now, Jennifer.
Thank you, Director, and thank you to the Chair. Because I can't see what's happening, is the PowerPoint up?
It's up, and all you have to talk to is the first slide is just a brief look at the school, a cute little thing with the soccer ball and etc. It looks quite good.
Perfect. So thank you again. I have been asked to prepare a report to the Board of Trustees. It is my pleasure to introduce you to Williamstown Public School. Next slide, please.
Okay.
Williamstown Public School belongs to the Charland family of schools. We are a rural school nestled in the heart of Glengarry County, serving 323 students. We offer programming from JK to grade 6 with both French immersion and core programming. Presently, we have no English language learners. We have a very strong, high level of community involvement, a very strong academic culture. We are presently 50 years in this site right here. Children can attend the school setting in Williamstown area from the time of 18 months old, that would be daycare at our school, until the age of 21 across the road at Charland, where they transition to grade 7. I was appointed acting principal in September 2009 until March 2010, and appointed principal in September 2010. Previous to that, Sarita Anderson, John Lalonde, and Susan McDonald were the principals. Next slide.
Okay.
Our school goals are aligned with the board's strategic plan under the Crew Charter. Our 3 goals are: all children will have the opportunity to develop critical thinking skills necessary for the 21st century in all subject areas. Students and staff will have access to high-quality, cross-curricular resources that support learning for all, and to promote health and wellness with students, staff, and community. Next slide.
Okay.
As with our school board plan, communication within the school and within the community are equally important. This is a close-knit community, and the school is at the heart of the community. We have, of course, our school website, as well as we have a Williamstown Public School Facebook page that is very active. We also have 2 secure kindergarten sites with invites only for parents, and that is where play-based learning pictures are posted daily. We also can be followed on Twitter. Newsletters, calendars, board communication are all posted on the school website and on our Facebook pages. We have a weekly communication called Week at a Glance that goes out to all staff. Communication with in our family of schools is ongoing. Next slide.
Okay.
Our current state, presently we're doing embedded professional development. We have a school-wide focus where we're doing math carousels which focus on algebraic reasoning. We're doing school-wide read-alouds with a focus on comprehension strategies, digging deeper and questioning. We're also doing inquiry in French through the arts. We have a high degree of the use of technology where we embrace any device, anytime, anywhere. We have a very high degree of collaboration and teamwork among staff. The efficacy is very high. We use differentiated instruction, level text, high interest text, and we make data-driven decisions to support student success. Next slide. Our current state in terms of EQAO data last May, June, we had 39 grade 3 students writing and 33 grade 6 students. None of those students were English language learners. 18% had special needs in grade 3 and 24% in grade 6. 3% of their first language was learned at home was other than English, only 3% in grade 3 and grade 6. 97% of the grade 3s were born in Canada. 100% of the grade 6s were born in Canada. And as you can see, the transient rate is very low in Williamstown. Next slide. The current state in terms of our achievement data for EQAO last spring, grade 3, reading was 77, writing was 92, and math was 82. In grade 6, reading was 79, writing was 79, and math was 70. Now, if you could flip over to the next slide, please. That shows you the percentage of students in grade 3 in reading, writing, and mathematics for the last 5 years. And the top is school, and then board and province. In the last 5 years in reading, writing, and mathematics, grade 3 has outperformed both the board and the province. Next slide, please. This is the identical slide, but only for grade 6 students with reading, writing, and mathematics across the top, and school, board, and province along the side. The percentage of students in grade 6 at or above the provincial standard for the last 5 years, the last 3 years we've been higher than the board and province in reading, writing, and mathematics. So our trend seems to be going in the opposite direction. Next slide. We are a community school, so it is very important. In fact, it's critical for the parents and students to have a voice. This voice came this year from October 2013. And I would just like to highlight a few items from the survey. 84.6% of parents believe that their child is showing evidence of developing critical thinking and problem-solving skills. 95.3% of parents believe that their child is developing skills to become a good citizen. And I believe that that's a reflection of our work with Character Always, our school-wide read-alouds, our spirit assemblies, and our promise to each other. Next slide, please. 96.9% of parents are satisfied with the level of communication, and 95.3% of parents feel welcome at the school and feel that their child is safe. And I think this demonstrates our vision, a caring culture of learning for all. Next slide. The current state for student voice was taken again in October of this year, and it was grade 5 and 6 students. I think what's interesting is that 92% of the students in grade 5 and 6 like coming to school, 86% believe they're good readers, and 74% believe that they're good at math. And I think that that demonstrates student efficacy and that we have a high level of student engagement. They feel they are safe at school and cared for by the adults. Next slide. Our desired state. Obviously, to move the level 2 students to level 3, identifying who they are, analyzing the data, designing programming, monitoring them closely, and refine as necessary. We will continue to focus on mathematics instruction in all grades, extending the use of manipulatives across the junior division. We are trying to replicate what's happening in grade 6 study across the board. We're trying to replicate that across the grades in the school, or we are doing that. We want to continue to strive for excellence in all areas of the CRU strategic plan and continue our focus on the 90% graduation rate through close monitoring of all students from elementary to secondary using performance data. We want to continue to work collaboratively with all staff to ensure students have access to high-quality instructional resources and strategies. iPads, smart TVs, authentic learning tasks, and real-world applications. Next slide. That is the end of my presentation, Chair.
Thank you very much. Those of you that are on the phone lines, there's so many of us on the line. What I'll ask you to do is, if you would like to speak, could you just say your name first, and then I'll be able to sort it out from there. So, comments, questions? Anyone on the phone lines?
Yeah, I have a question, Jeff.
Go ahead.
It's David.
Okay, go ahead, David.
Just trying to find the piece where I wanted to start at. In your current state, Jennifer, you talk about data-driven decisions for student success. What data do you rely on?
We rely on EQAO data, where we can see exactly what the students were able to do, what they had difficulty with. We use PM benchmarks, we use CASI, we use Flint, we use sometimes Mari Clay observation surveys. Does that answer your question?
Mm-hmm. So if you're using EQAO data, I'm just looking at the grade 6 data right now. You say that the trend is opposite of what the board and the province are. Yet in grade 6 writing, there was one last year seemed to be good, but then, I guess 2 years ago seemed to be good, but last year you're back down to 79%.
Yes.
What do you attribute to that 1 year? Is that high candle an anomaly? And what are you going to do to ensure that we get back to that level that you were at?
Through you, Chair. I'm just flipping back to the slide, grade 6.
Mm-hmm.
So in grade 6 this year we had, 79 in reading, a 91 in writing, and a 76 in math. No, sorry, I'm the wrong year. 79 in reading, 79 in writing, and 70 in mathematics. Off the top of my head, I would say it was a bit of a cohort. We had some students with some special needs. 24% of grade 6 students writing in June were identified with special education needs. So, yes, we need to look at the programming for those students, and by identifying students in grade 3 that we have right now, we hope to work towards improving those scores. We can't improve the grade 6s right now. We have passed them on to our Charland family.
Fair enough. I guess when I look at the historical data, though, for grade 3, and then I look at the grade 4, grade 6, I mean, your numbers seem to dip a little bit with the kids moving from grade 3 on to grade 6. So you've got that 1 year that seems to be an anomaly of 91, but really, when we look at your grade 3 results and then extrapolate that out 3 years to the grade 6.
If you look at, through you, Chair, if you look at the grade 3 writing results, it jumped as well. We did have a focus on writing, and not that we still don't have a focus on writing, but as I said, our focus for the last 2 years has been on reading and mathematics. So, I mean, we did have a little bit of transient population coming in the junior grades. I think 3%. I don't have the figures in front of me right now, but we will continue to look at those individual students. We will continue to do formative assessments in order to continue to improve their scores.
Thank you.
Right, all right. I guess I want to focus in. The 79% that you've got, those kids in grade 3 were at 86%. Would you agree to that?
Sorry, I'm flipping from slides here. Through you, Chair, could you repeat that?
Your grade 6 students on the most current results that you have is at 79%.
In writing.
And
Yes.
in writing. And those same students in grade 3 were at 86%. Is that, would you agree to that?
I'm just looking back. If we're looking at,
CD 86.
sorry. Yeah, I only have the graph right in front of me right now. I don't have specific data to look at the number of special needs, from those 3 different cohorts. I don't have the data of incoming students, so it's difficult for me to answer that without the full report in front of me.
Okay, I guess my caution is that you make the statement that Williamstown is higher than the board and higher than the province, but yet there seems to be some issues around one year to the next year, or perhaps over the 3 years from taking a test in grade 3 to grade 6. So I appreciate the fact that you put a focus or an attention on how you're doing against the province and how you're doing against the board. But are we making sure that we're watching how we're doing against ourselves at Williamstown Public School on an annual basis? How well those students did previously when they were tested in grade 3? Are they making improvements? Are they falling back? And I think for some reason or another, some of those things kind of step out to me right now. So, if that's the data that you're using, what are you doing to ensure that those students in grade 3 don't fall behind the line as they take the test in grade 6?
Well, through you, Chair, I appreciate that, and we will definitely take that into consideration, and we will dig deeper and look closer at the data.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Other questions, comments? Trustee McAllister?
Jennifer, I applaud your surveys of both the parent voice and the student voice. I think that's excellent, and it would appear that I guess I'm going to ask you the question: what did it reveal to you that perhaps I haven't seen here?
Through you, Chair, I think it demonstrated that the community is satisfied and happy with their child's school, that their child is safe, and that their child is being cared for, and that we are developing critical thinking and problem solving in their students. They feel that we communicate well, and I think it means that we continue to do what we're doing and improve where we can.
Supplementary?
Yes, go ahead.
Just one other question. I think I understood you to say that you had a program called French Through the Arts. Am I correct?
Through you, Chair, we're doing an inquiry, school-wide inquiry in French, the French division with the arts, so with visual arts. That's their focus as when we get together in PLCs, we have a math, we have a language, and we have a French.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Cartner?
I was looking for some information in your presentation about the wellness, both of students and staff. Could you elaborate a little bit for us, Jennifer, as to what's going on in that aspect of the strategic plan?
Yes, we through you, Chair, we offer a healthy breakfast program and healthy snacks throughout the day. We offer quality daily phys ed if it's not offered in the gym every day, but we do DPA in the classrooms. We are involved with the grade 5 fitnessgram testing. We have a Learn to Run program in the spring, a 6 weeks program. We celebrate it with a race day. I think, or I believe that my staff attendance demonstrates the wellness that they feel, and I do what's called Season It with Fun. So we have fun activities for the staff throughout the month to recognize their hard work and to keep it fun.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Trustee Buckland?
Through you, Chair.
Trustee Buckland first, and then Trustee Swan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I applaud you on your report, Jennifer, and when I'm in the school, it is one of activity and harmony. And I wonder if you had some tips for other principals on the part-time teacher coming in for the first time, the substitute teacher, some of these new young teachers. Is there something special you do to sort of indoctrinate them or bring them into the system somehow?
Through you, Chair, it was interesting today that we had a supply teacher in the building in the staff room at lunchtime and said that she had been in another school for 3 consecutive days and not one person actually welcomed her into the building. And she said she enjoys the staff room, she enjoys the laughter, the camaraderie, and the way that she is welcomed into the school.
Thank you. That is a worry.
Mr. Buckland, any more questions?
No, that's fine.
Thank you very much. Trustee Swan.
Through you, Chair. Thank you, Jennifer, for your presentation. I'm just wondering, what size of school, I've never been there, is Williamston?
Williamstown has is right now 323 students. We've had a population growth from 2009-10 from 249 students to what we are today of 322. So we are at capacity with 5 portables.
And secondary, Chair?
Thank you. Go ahead.
So the number of students that would be writing the grade 3 or the grade 6 EQAO, it's a fairly small number of students, is it?
33 and 39.
So a 5% variance really isn't very much because it could just be one student, for instance, had an off day or something.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Trustee McAllister.
Jennifer, could you talk a little bit about the activity of your school council?
Through you, Chair, I have a very active school council. We have about 6 to 8 meetings per year. Last year, they took on the role of fundraising for the playground equipment, and we raised in one evening with a silent auction and a live auction $57,000. They are a highly active, very supportive group of men and women.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions online, on the phones? Thank you. I'm going to ask the director to make a comment.
Jennifer, as you know, I've spent a considerable amount of time in the school, and just looking at the staff photo, probably the person more proud of that staff than me is you, although Val seems to be beaming down here about the work that your school has been able to accomplish. One of my takeaways, Chair, and to the trustees, is the school has enjoyed a high level of quality leadership at the principal's office. And what's happened, each principal has passed the baton to the next principal and has taken the high expectations of the Charland community. Charland Secondary School already enjoys nearly 100% graduation rate, and it's no mistake that it all starts at Williamstown, where at the street the parents have high expectations, the teachers are relentlessly going after quality engagement of students, and the principal keeps them on their toes and engages her staff as much as a coach as she does as her boss. And as looked at, I would agree with Trustee McDonald. Perhaps the biggest challenge for a school like Williamstown is not the province nor our board, but is last year's performance. And as David has challenged, I think to say, we know you're really, really good, but maybe last year's performance is what you have to compete about. And I know this, knowing Jennifer as well as I do, as she doesn't step back from any sort of challenge. So I think this is a great report. I think it says a great deal about the school and the staff, but most of all, we can guarantee to that community the kids are learning, and that school is making a difference in the community. But thank you, and Jennifer, thank you for the presentation. Keep up the good work.
Jennifer, too, on behalf of the board, thank you so much for the presentation. There's no question in our mind that we have confidence that the school is just humming along. And just to echo what the director has said, and to echo also what Trustee McDonald had said, you know, a school that's so high performing, your biggest challenges, your biggest obstacles are yourselves. And it's taking a look at where you are and not accepting even that as status quo. It's moving forward with that, and that's what comes from looking from within. And I have no doubt that you'll meet that challenge as well. So thank you so much for your presentation, and have a wonderful holiday.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Very good.
Okay, do we have our Net Promoter people online, you think? They phoned in? Do we have Jason Carter? Have you joined us?
Yes, I have.
Jason, welcome. I'm Jeff McMillan. I'm the vice chair of the board. I'll be chairing this meeting.
Okay.
And to the trustees that are on the phone lines and to those who are in the room, Jason's going to give a presentation on the Net Promoter Score in a moment, or a report. This has not come to the Accountability Framework Committee yet. Usually, last year we saw it ahead of time, but we have not seen it ahead of time. So there may be situations where we may say we'll be referring that back to the committee. However, what I'm going to ask everyone to do, because we're on the phone lines and so on, is to make sure that all questions and comments are directed through me. And then, Jason, I'll either direct them to you, or it could be someone in the room I direct it to as well. And Jason, I understand you have other people with you?
Yes, I do. I have Sandro and Michelle, who are actually the authors of the report for us. They will actually be doing most of the discussions because they were actually writing up the data and running the analysis. So they're on the call as well.
Thank you so much. And you're out in Alberta, is it?
Yes, we're finally warming up. It sounds like we've given you our cold.
I think you've given us the cold.
Yeah.
Listen, thank you so much for being on the line. Can you begin your report? Thank you.
Sure. So the Net Promoter Score report that we ran is part of a series that we've been asked to look at. So we ran the first report back in 2012. This is a follow-up report to see if anything has changed as a result of suggestions, recommendations, etc., that the Upper Canada District School Board has followed or implemented. So what I'd actually like to do is turn the discussion over to Michelle and Sandro, probably Michelle, who was actually heading up the project and the report itself, and I'll get her to actually walk through the report with you and give you some insight into some of the results that we'd found, if that's okay.
Hi there, this is Michelle.
Hi, Michelle.
As Jason indicated, Sandra and myself worked on both this wave and the more previous wave of this particular study in 2012. What I'm going to do is I'm going to touch on the highlights in the report. We're just going to focus in on the NPS score and our executive summary, given our time constraint here today. And what I'm going to tell you is that some recommendations were made in the report last year. Our recommendations was that the school board must increase their communication levels to their constituents or to their stakeholders. And what we found is that the school board has done just that. They set up a Facebook page for each school that can communicate directly with those who are connected through that Facebook. They created a group of influential people across the board's area to also communicate directly with parents and stakeholders. And they created an online portal to provide real-time updates on extracurricular activities, etc. And what we found was that the NPS rating basically remained unchanged from 2012 to 2013. 2012, the score was 22, and 2013, the score was now 23. Now, at first blush, that would indicate that there really were no changes in the NPS rating. But going back and looking at the data a little bit more clearly, what we found was that the sample for this year's testing had changed somewhat in that we had more people in the category who were detractors in this particular sample size. And these were people who were paying their taxes not to your particular school board district, but to other districts. And if we take that into consideration, what we found is that your overall NPS rating did actually improve by 5 points. Now, that is commendable. It's not easy to change these kinds of ratings, and the fact that you did is most certainly something that you should acknowledge and celebrate. What we found is that the top reason for the NPS score of those who are promoting your particular school district remains the same as that it was in 2012, that they have children who are currently attending or who have previously attended a school in your particular district. We also found that the top reason for the NPS score for those who are detracted or who are detractors are again the same as those in 2012. They don't know enough about the school board to recommend. We also found when running this wave more recently is that the main issue facing the school board district continues to be school funding. And school funding, of course, translates into bigger class sizes as schools are closed. And it also translates into extracurricular activities not being offered, perhaps to the degree or to the frequency that those who have children in those particular schools would like to see happen. So essentially, in a nutshell, this report is good news. What it is that you're doing most definitely has some positive responses to it. And if we take the change in sample into consideration, your NPS score has actually improved. Now, there is significantly more detail in the report, in the full report, and once you receive that document, you will see that. But in a nutshell, this is what we found.
Now, Michelle, we have the report in front of us,
Okay,
so we have had a chance to look at it, or most of us have.
all right.
So just so you know that.
Okay, good. Do you have any questions for us at this point?
We certainly can take questions at this point. Trustee McAllister.
Yes, Michelle, I have a question for you.
Right.
With regard to the main issue being one of funding, is this perception or reality?
Well, perception is often reality, right?
Well, no, it isn't. No, it isn't, because I think we are victims as a board of our own criticism of the provincial government and the need to change the funding formula, when in fact, within the board, we are funding our schools very well, and our class sizes are as good as any, if not better, and do conform to provincial standards. So that's why I asked the question.
Right. Well, you know what? I mean, your responses, you know, what we're going by is we're going by what people are telling us, right? And what people are saying that the biggest issue they have is funding, or they relate it back to funding. They're saying things like there are not enough teachers. The class sizes are fairly big because of that. We're just looking directly at the data right now. Funding with normal course of events and collective bargaining, what is the salaries are going to increase, and as long as we don't increase taxes, it'll be difficult to increase wages for teachers and support staff. So, you know, what we have said there is a summation of what it is that people have told in response to the survey. This was an open-ended question, and this is how they responded to it.
Okay, I understand you're dealing with the information that you received.
Right.
It's not that I don't like the information, it's just that I think, is there a way of digging deeper in future?
In future, yes. I mean, we would have to think of the type of questions that we would ask, and we can most certainly do that. You know, they can be probed more closely if those are the statements that they make. The interviewer can most certainly probe more deeply on what it is that they mean by that and where they're coming from on that particular perspective. You know, the data isn't at hand now because, of course, those questions weren't asked, but going forward into additional waves, we can most certainly probe more deeply on that.
Okay, I think that's a discussion that perhaps we need to have in future.
Right.
Other questions, comments?
May I ask a question, Chair?
Yes, you can. Go ahead.
It's Trustee Ann McCrae here. You made a comment about the NPS scores for detractors.
Right.
And what I'm reading here is they don't know enough about the school board to recommend it.
Right.
Was there anything that came out of this in terms of what kind of information we need to give to the detractors so that we, in fact, can be competitive with other boards?
That's a good question, and no. I mean, the direct answer to that is no. We don't have any additional information to provide you at this point. And you know what, I can also tell you, doing both research in this area and doing research in many other industries on many other sort of topics of communication, I can tell you that disseminating information like that to people who aren't necessarily engaged in the topic is difficult. You know, for those people, they don't have children who currently are or have in the past attended schools in your district, and so because of that, they're not necessarily going to be seeking out information about your district. You know, if something happens to come forward to them that really catches their attention, then they will acknowledge it. But if it isn't, if they're not directly interested, they don't seek the information. So, you know, that's part of the challenge here.
Yeah, I think that's something as well, just to add on to Trustee McAllister's, that there needs to be a discussion about.
Okay.
Because we need to know that our detractors know enough about our schools to recommend them.
Right. Right.
To me, you know, that's part of the branding, that's part of the marketing, that's part of public relations and promotion. And the word we want out there is that, you know, the doors are open and we want students to come to the Upper Canada District School Board.
Right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions before we move on?
Jeff, if I may?
Yes?
It's David.
David.
I think we need to make sure that we understand the rationale or the reason for doing this. Is that this survey is a baseline to understand what people think of Upper Canada, and from the standpoint of, are they promoting us or are they not promoting us? I think if we want to get into the details of interviewing individuals as to what kind of information they think they need, it's a different scope altogether. They ask some probing questions associated to these types of things, but it goes a little bit deeper than this particular survey. I think there needs to be some strategies around communication, and it's up to us to determine, as a board, to determine what those strategies might be and how we're going to focus on those. And the way to test that is to go back out and we've said, here's our strategy over the next year. We're going to do this Net Promoter Score, and has that strategy worked? Have we changed or influenced any detractors associated to what we've done, or as a result of what we've done with our strategy? I don't think the expectation is that this group is going to give us the right answer on what we need to do to change a detractor from a promoter. It's up to us to figure that out.
And I agree completely with you on that, Trustee McDonald, that we have to take this to the level that it was intended to. You know, one probably really good example that comes out of the scores that we're looking at right now is that we changed or made some changes to our communication plan, and as a result we saw some positive growth in that area, and that's the intent behind the Net Promoter Scores, for us to take a look at you know, the perception that's out there, and to address some of the needs that are coming out of this survey. We're certainly not asking the people that are doing the survey to come up with the answers for us. That's our job, and we will move forward based on the information. This is only part of the information that we collect throughout the year, but it certainly gives us some beginning points as to where we might want to head next. So, having said that, do I have any other questions before we continue with the presentation and report?
Yeah, Peter here.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Board. I look at 562 participants this year. How many last year?
Michelle?
566, I believe. We're just having a look here. I believe it's 566.
That's not bad. Thank you.
But that we had that response. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, can we, you going to continue the presentation? Michelle, is there more to add?
No, there isn't. What I did is I summarized for you the main key finding here, and to tell you the good news of how things have actually improved in response to your action.
Perfect. Okay, thank you so much for that. We appreciate that.
Through you, Chair?
Trustee Swan?
I'm just curious. It seems like it was 562. It's not a huge amount of people that were surveyed in this, considering the size of our board, and I'm just wondering there why it was such a small sampling.
Yes, okay. Trustee McAllister, go ahead.
Can we, Trustee Swan, may I perhaps give you an answer based on the work that we did in the Accountability Framework Committee? The reason for the size of sample is that the higher the size, the greater the cost, for one thing. And we decided that this was, for us at least at this point, an optimal size. Am I right, Chair?
Yes.
Does that answer your question, Lisa?
Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle, are you still there?
I am.
Okay. Jason?
Yep.
Thank you so much for your report.
You're welcome.
Thank you for inviting us.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Good. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
When we look at the Net Promoter Score and we look at we look at some of the changes from last year, some have stayed the same. You know, when you take a look at the year that we came through, and we still have public confidence, I think it speaks volumes. It was a tough year. It does not surprise me that the term funding would come up, because that was what was in the press constantly, was talking about funding. So, you know, there were good things that came out of this report. The fact that we've maintained the same level as we've had in the past, having come through the situation that we did, I think also speaks volumes. And Director, you know, when I look at the communication, the changes that we've got there, and the growth that we've had, I think it certainly is a very positive sign in terms of where we are heading. And you know, we look at people that know nothing about the school systems. A lot of those people don't have kids in the system any longer. And so it's the Net Promoter Score certainly gives us some information that is valuable to us. And it's very easy to want to drill down and go deeper, but that was not the intent of the Net Promoter Score to begin with. And what we will do is back at the Accountability Framework Committee, we will take a good look at this and have discussions, and then come back to the board and report from there. Okay?
And we'll take this back to the senior table. We'll dig into what this tells us as well.
Certainly.
Good.
Trustee Cartner?
There was just one comment made that disturbed me a little bit, was the class size as being a major factor. And I thought we were providing sufficient funds for class sizes to be within the range that the government has set, and that I don't know, you know, where that comment came from. Really, it surprised me.
And I'm going to get the director to comment on that in a second, but I certainly opened my eyes, because everyone at this table knows that that's not the case. So, Director, could just clarify that for us, please.
First of all, I chair, through you to Carol. Trustee Cartner, this is a perception, as Trustee McAllister said, a perception survey. The fact is, as Trustee McAllister was alluding to, that perception is not the reality. We have the smallest class sizes in the history of the province of Ontario. We had last year 127 classes below 17 kids. We did, and we have, with our collective agreement, Trustee Cartner, we have rules that say we cannot go above 23. And if we go above 23, we have to split and do a variety of things. And if we didn't follow those, we would be going through grievance procedures, and we have not had agreements on class size in 10 years in this board. We are following the province sets the standard. They have said this is what you're to have. We are funded according to that. That's what it is. But I don't want to get caught up in that piece, because I do agree with the overall Net Promoter Score is a public perception piece, and what it tells me is that we're not commuting that fact good enough. And so, looking through this particular, and being a statistics minor in university, the fact is nearly half the people who are reporting here didn't have kids in the system, And of that, many of them were actually from our coterminous board, or other boards were commenting on our board. So I'm not sure if they would realize that the French public, our Catholic District School Board, and the French Catholic would all have the exact same class sizes from Cornwall to right up to Thunder Bay. And so if we still have perception after what this government has done to reduce class sizes over the last 10 years, then we're not selling this the right way. My guess would be, and this is just from an old data person as you go through, is that I don't think the media has really told the story of the really small classes. And I don't think that it's very interesting because, you know, Malcolm Gladwell in his research, and currently the discussion there is that the class sizes are so small now, have we really created family groupings instead of classes? And because what Gladwell has said in his work that it's one thing to have a small class, but it becomes so small it's ineffective, it becomes a family, but you can't have a gang, and that's 27 or above. Right now on our board, we have both at the secondary and elementary panel, the smallest classes that this district has ever seen. So are we communicating effectively? I don't know. Is the McGuinty and now the current government selling that the right way? I don't know. I would say that we probably, as the chair of the meeting has said, we have some communications that we have to follow. We have to, I'm not sure if we're telling our parents that this, you know, I know this, I don't get phone calls from teachers when they say my class is above 23. I don't get phone calls from teachers when they say their classroom is below 17 as you go through, but we have, and I know this, Trustee Carton, you're in the school very often. I don't think you've seen a 30 in a long time, and we just don't have it. So we got to communicate more effectively, that's what it tells me.
And certainly, and we need to communicate effectively on a local level, but you're right, I think public education is suffering because of lack of proper knowledge, proper information, and you end up with the public who's not informed, making assumptions that are not true, and because of that, I think it hurts all of us. So we can do our part in terms of our communication and rolling the story out and telling the truth. Media has a responsibility to tell the story the way it is. The government has a responsibility to tell the story the way it is. So you certainly have said a lot.
I think that the Net Promoter Score over a longer period of time is going to be a more valuable tool than in 2 years. I think when we look at long-term communication planning, how we educate our editors, how we educate our news people will be critical so that they ask the penetrating questions of us as well. So right now, as hard as one thing I do like is the fact we have invested in our communication. We've certainly got recognition for our work in Facebook, and so, but we have a way to go, and we knew that when we talked about this last year. It's good to know we're making progress, and I think over a 3 to 5 year cycle, we're going to get a tool that's going to help us make better decisions.
I certainly agree with you on that, and I think the Net Promoter Score is one of the tools we are using, yes. And it is only one. It's going to give us some valuable information, and I agree with you, Director, that's going to give us valuable information down the road as we continue to see this change. And it will not surprise me at all to see the scores move in a positive direction because we do pay attention, and I think that's something that is very important, that we pay attention to what's being said and we address those obstacles that often come in our way. Okay, any more questions, comments? Thank you. I need a motion to move back into the regular meeting. Moved by Trustee Karkner, seconded by Trustee McAllister, and we'll vote on that. I'm in favor too. I don't see it here. Okay, everyone. I assume everyone's in favor. It's not something that wouldn't be. Okay, we're moving forward. That's accepted. There were no private session November 27th, 2013. Report from the public session November 27th.
You making your line?
Pardon me? There were 3 presentations on November 27th from the public session, 3 presentations and discussions. items were presented. There were no recommendations brought forward to the board. The next item is a standing item, report of the Ontario Public School Boards Association. Trustee, Second Vice Chair McDonald, do you have a report on that?
Yeah, I'll bring you up to speed. I wanted to share a few handouts with you, and I've just tried to find them before this meeting, so I'll forward them off in the next little while to Lisa to make sure that you have that information.
Okay, thank you.
We met last week, I think the week before. The weeks are flying by here. In Toronto, and it was a good meeting. Peter, I'll let Peter bring you up to speed on some of the things that are happening around the First Nations Métis situation. But just wanted to share a few things with you that we need to, I guess, be aware of and have in the back of our mind when we think about OPSPA and the work that they do, and the arm's length corporations that they have as well. Typically, when we look at the board of directors agenda on a regular basis, there's a lot of information sharing about what's happening at the provincial level through legislation, what's being done to respond to the government's requests for information, requests for consultation, those types of things. So the meeting does comprise a lot of updates as to where we are in those areas. One of the things that we did talk about, though, in the finance section was we shared across the province what's happening with transportation consortia, and many of the trustees were very unclear as to the role of trustee as it relates to the transportation consortia. Some trustees were advised that if they were involved in the consortia or if they were part of the governance team, then they would receive a low rating on the E&E review. There doesn't appear to be any evidence that is the case. I think there's some in situations where it might have been beneficial to not have trustees, or maybe a different motivation. In fact, I think the province at one time said it's certainly entirely up to the boards involved to do that. So there was some information that was shared on that role. Just quickly, across the province, there's really not much happening around the consortia. I mean, where they are in place, I guess the deltas between who has trustees on them, whether they are separate legal entities, or whether they're just operating under the umbrella of an existing board, really does differ across the province. It seems to be working for some areas to be in the situations they're in, but I think it's been left up to the individual boards to determine how best they want to see that fit. We also shared information about School Energy Coalition, and this is the work that they do around the gas companies, primarily the energy companies that want to bring about increases in pricing. So as a result of the work of the School Energy Coalition, recently there's been about $129 million in savings across the province. So we see a portion of those benefits as a result of the work that they're doing around Enbridge and Union Gas, those types of companies that would put forward intent to increase pricing. The coalition certainly objects to that and puts things in place to argue against them and keep the increases at a very minimal level. One of the areas that we also talked about is around efficiencies and modernization in government. And one of the alarming pieces that were shared with us was around, typically the government will go out and consult on GSNs. And they've made a statement this year that they won't be consulting on GSNs. They'll be more relying on the information that they're gathering around the consultation of efficiencies and modernization of government. And you recall that I think there was about 5 different consultations that the province put out in the last month and a half, and one of those was seeking input into what people thought local government school boards should look like, the role of the school board. Those types of things were involved, and so it's a little alarming that they're going to rely on that type of information rather than having the regular process of consultations around the GSNs. We'll wait and see how that comes out. Around early years, there's been a lot of discussion around the Day Nurseries Act, and it impacts us as school boards in the Day Nurseries Act when it comes to the alternate day piece, the before and after school piece, and it varies. It actually is quite different than the Education Act. So the government will be looking at the Day Nurseries Act moving forward. In fact, they'll actually be introducing a new bill to cover the modernization of daycares. We're not sure what that's going to look like at this point. Hopefully it is aligned with what the Education Act says. I mean, there's a number of things they need to do as it relates to day nurseries, whether they be in a home facility or in a separate facility, but I think there needs to be some sort of a understanding that there are a number of things that are happening within schools, and they're putting extra requirements on school boards or even in private daycares to try and meet those needs, just as a result of this antiquated act. So hopeful that that'll come forward and be something that'll be beneficial for us to work with. The government's also going to be looking at after-school, before and after-school programs, care for 6 to 12-year-olds. Primarily, most of that has been done prior to that age range of 6 to 12. More information around Regulation 274. 274 is the regulation about the hiring of teachers based on, I guess, length of service within the individual boards. So seniority-based type hiring, having been through the process of a contract teacher for some time. That is not going to go away. The government has been pretty steadfast to say that they would look at some tweaks to it, but they're not going to repeal that legislation and or that regulation. Some trustees, in fact, the Toronto board is quite adamant that they need to repeal it. I think our efforts would be far better served if we concentrate on the areas that need to be tweaked at this moment, as opposed to trying to fight a battle where they've dug their heels, and the government, that is, has dug their heels in and said it's not going to get repealed away. Bill 122 also gets moving forward. I mean, it's something that we need to be aware of. It's not in the full implementation stage yet. There has been some changes as a result of or since my last meeting at the board of directors, but certainly it's something to keep our eyes on, and I think every one of us get the updates from Jennifer as to what the status of Bill 122 is. They also talked about the bargaining advisory group. This group it ties into some of the activities that OPSPA has around bargaining and the labor relations network that we have. So there's some opportunities there that we can look to get involved even further at our board level if there's opportunity for some staff and or trustee involvement. I think staff already are quite involved in making sure that they're involved with the advisory group and the labor relations network, but there may be an opportunity for trustee to be involved at that point as well. Just keeping on the bargaining side of things, the discussion around the bargaining process was raised, and what would be required from OPSPA to actually engage in a representation. representation role for all boards when it comes to bargaining. It's the belief that there's going to be added resources required at OPSPA. The resources that we have may be capable, but the bandwidth that they have is certainly not sufficient. All the other duties still need to get completed, but with the requirements around bargaining, something's going to drop. So there's a belief that we'll have to hire more individuals, and there's also a fairly strong belief that the government will be paying for a good portion of that process. I'm not quite certain that we'll require a full complement of staff on a regular basis to enter into negotiations. We will require some expertise to deal with the day-to-day issues that may arise when we're not in a bargaining process. But when we enter into a bargaining process, there needs to be a scalable effect that we can bring in outside resources for a short period of time, so that we can deal with the issues associated to bargaining. Talked about EQAO as well. There's a new CEO appointed for EQAO, and they are embarking on a strategic planning session. EQAO is also going to be moving out into areas for consultation. And I think there was already one in Cornwall, and I believe there's another one coming in Ottawa. I certainly can look at those dates and send it out, but the primary reason for those consultations is just to get some feedback from parents, I think, is the main target audience. There's some handouts that I wanted to share with you from the policy work team and the program work team, so I'll gather those and share those with the board. They're also, OPSPA is preparing a municipal election guide for trustees. They're also actually going to work with AMO on this process as well. So moving into 2014 as an election year, they're going to be in a situation where they will have that guide created. They will work with the ministry to ensure that all the information is there, and have something ready, I think, probably within the first quarter of 2014, so fairly early on in 2014. Also, another handout I'll provide to you, actually, it'll be a link. There's a document called Supporting Minds. It's a document produced by the Ministry of Education, and it's centered around special education, so it's Supporting Minds, an educator's guide to promoting students' mental health and well-being. And so it leads into the aspect of what we're looking to do across the province with our mental health days in the summit that we'll have in the spring. I'll send you that link, as well as the other information through Lisa, and she can share that with you. The final piece that I was going to raise, and I'll let Peter finish off with, is just the information around his activities around First Nation and Inuit and Métis students, and I guess the public reception that Peter gets across the province is quite noticeable. I'll say this, that for a number of years we've had other individuals representing the First Nation students at OPSPA, and the reports were, I would say, not at the same caliber as Peter's, and Peter shares quite a bit of information with us. Peter's well connected within the province, so he represents our board well across the province, and is respected within OPSPA as a very great advisor when it comes to the situation and the needs of First Nation students. So I'll let Peter take over on that last part, but certainly very proud to sit beside Peter at the meetings whenever he's being recognized for all of his efforts.
Thank you. Peter, go ahead.
Through you, Chair. Thank you, David. I guess it's something that I look at coming from my community, and the community, of course, where we have 3 schools, or you could say 4 schools. And because of our relationship that we've had, I have to start, of course, with the federal government, and the inadequacy that attention, funding, supports, and what have you that goes on. but it's also because of a connection I have, of course, with the AFN and through the Chiefs of Ontario and through a number of other First Nation, Métis organizations, and also connecting with the province. And what I've tried to explain to them is that there is so much that is being provided by the Ontario Public School Board, by Upper Canada District School Board, that you cut into so many different areas. I shouldn't even say, you reach out to so many different areas. When I look at the mental health, when I look at the transportation consortium, there are so many things that you do, and especially when I get to the mental health and special education too. It's just amazing how other organizations you sort of enlist into, the type of surveys that we heard tonight, but also getting the schools to come forward and present, like Williamstown, is something that we don't have. And it's something that we really need. We have been doing things on early learning. We have been doing things on transportation. We also have, we're into post-secondary, and of course we have the best tuition agreement, I think, in Canada right now with the Upper Canada, because of efforts that you guys have all put forward. And so when I come to these meetings and I listen and I hear so much about where governments are trying to reduce or because of their budget overruns, but what I really I continue to be amazed that even at the board of directors and OPSPA, and of course with Upper Canada around our board table, is that our focus still remains the student. And that's something that I have learned from our community, from our school boards, from our councils, from our elders, is that, we have to look at the students first and our youth. And so that's where it comes forward. And maybe if, David, I'll just talk about one of the things that I'm trying to impart to people and to think about is where we think about 7 generations. I raised this at the board meeting because it's very important. You hear about it, but it's really probably it's just a time frame of maybe 175 to 200 years. And as I stated at the board table, that I had the honor of knowing who my great-grandfather was. So if you look at that person as being number 1, my grandparents being number 2, my parents number 3, I'm the 4th, and I have my children, my boys who are number 5, and I have grandchildren number 6, and I hope I live long enough to see my great-grandchildren. So, I mean, that's 7 generations when you think about who you can impart on. And so, and then that's from our traditional teachings. And so it just goes on to, I guess what I'm getting at is just trying to, I wouldn't say maybe in a way instruct, but just let people know that there's our traditions, there's a lot of richness, and there's a lot of probably wisdom in it, so that, and when I come to the table, and I'm still amazed at how people can work and, focus in. I mean, we don't have union problems that you guys do, and that the legislation comes down, and that is sometimes it's just overwhelming with a number of bills. And when I see what Jennifer puts forward on the legislation piece, I'm amazed. But it sometimes blows my mind. But I'm really glad to be there because I've learned so much. That's my report.
Thank you very much. Questions or comments? Thank you, David. Thank you, Peter, very much for that.
Thank you.
Okay, we're moving on to...
Through you, Chair?
Yes, Trustee Swan.
I'd just like to go back to Second Vice Chair McDonald. I'd like to ask him about Bill 135 and Ryan's Law. I know we got an update on that from Jennifer. And my understanding is he's recommending, or the OPSA is recommending us to take this to a board level in regards to the asthma inhalers and the unfortunate death of Ryan Gibbons in 2012.
David, do you have a comment on that?
No, I don't. I haven't reviewed that recent information, so unfortunately I don't have anything to offer at this time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving ahead, We have a report from Special Education Advisory Committee, and Trustee McAllister is going to do this for us.
Thank you, Chair.
He gets
As soon as
plugged
I
in.
get my act together here. Thank you. I'm pleased to report on the last SEAC meeting, which was held on December the 3rd, coincidentally with the International Day for Persons with Disabilities. And further to a recommendation from SEAC committee to the board that the stories of some of our disabled students be told. The board acted on that by passing a motion, and the director and his staff have acted on that as well with the creation of a video called Celebrating Abilities. And that video was shown at the SEAC meeting and was extremely well received, I must tell you that. It featured Corey Earle, who is a member of SEAC actually, Dan Best from Rideau District High School, Liam Deary from TIS, and Cora Lynn Rubino from TIS as well. And anyway, they spearheaded the board's recognition of the day with their stories. I wanted to, something that came through, and it's very, very critical, I think. Both students recognized the ongoing support of the Upper Canada Board in helping them to overcome their challenges and to realize their successes. And each student presented several key points. And the first one was that they were abled and not disabled, which I think is significant. Self-advocacy was a key part of their lives. They had developed instinctive ways to do normal things differently. Respect, they had to earn respect as well as to give respect. And the adaptive learning supports provided by the board has provided them with immense help. And from their point of view, the spirit of inclusion was alive and well. So I want to focus, if I could, on two students who were at the SEAC committee meeting, and they made a presentation, and it was brilliant, really. And we had hoped to show you a clip of the SEAC committee meeting. Unfortunately, there was a glitch, and the audio portion did not show. However, due to a little video that Andrew created, Andrew Blair, as well as Liam's YouTube, one of his many YouTube presentations, you're going to see it. So I'm going to start with Andrew's video, Lisa. Pardon? Right. Yes. It's a PowerPoint I'm sorry, I said a video. It's a PowerPoint presentation that Andrew chose to make to the SEAC committee. And if you look at the first slide, you see Andrew here is a fully integrated student at Rockville Collegiate Institute, where he shares many friends with all segments of the school body. And I must say, he addressed each one of these slides better than I can, or than I have been doing. But anyway, number two, he finds math challenging, which is no surprise to anybody in the province of Ontario, because many of our students are having that difficulty. But he appreciates the extra assistance afforded to him by such people as Mrs. Reed. And now we have the third slide. Among his interests are sports, where he was a member of the champion grade 8 basketball team. Number 4, Andrew graduated last year from I don't know where he graduated from one of the local schools, and he thoroughly enjoyed his prom, as you can see. Number 5, Andrew is the manager of the Rams, the BCI Rams football team, and he enjoys a number of close relationships and friendships with the lads on the team, and he is an integral member of the team as manager. Andrew has a great interest in music, and here you see him playing the drum kit, which belonged to Aaron Stevenson, one of his colleagues at BCI, and the family awarded the drum kit to Andrew. So he's very pleased on a number of counts. The fact that he has a set of drums and the fact that it belonged to Aaron. And finally, I guess this is just a small part of Andrew's story, but it's one of a young man who has overcome many obstacles, and due to that two-way respect referred to earlier, he is abled, respected, included, and adaptive. So that was the story that Andrew told. And before I want to go on to Liam at this point. Liam is an extremely eloquent and articulate young man. He is a grade 12 student at TIS. He was born with, amongst other things, cerebral palsy, which means that his left hand is incapacitated, which makes traditional guitar playing a challenge, as you can imagine. I noted earlier that one of the messages we learned from that group with disabilities is that people with disabilities learn instinctively to do normal things differently. They do instinctively normal things differently. And I'll give you an example, which let us assume that this is a guitar. Now I play guitar, so does Jeff. I think you're Jeff and I and Ian, we are right-handed guitar players, which means that we strum with our right hand and we chord with our left. Now there are a few exceptions to that, such as people who play like this. They play right-handed, left-handed, I mean. And we have people like Paul McCartney, Slim Whitman, Justin Bieber, Jill Barber, Jimi Hendrix, Kurt Cobain, and Sylvia Tyson, who play guitar left-handed. Now, that's not a big deal, because it's not just a guitar like this, flipped over. It's a true left-handed guitar, which is made for left-handed people. I mean, the guard is in the right place, the neck is in the right direction, and this is from bass E to lower E. Now, Liam has taken this a step further. So he has his father's guitar, which is a left-handed guitar, and he took it and flipped it. But by flipping it, the bass strings are now at the bottom and not at the top. And this is not terribly unusual. Some people do that. What is unusual is that he was able to play it. Now, it just blew my mind as to how he could play it with only one hand. But it was a technique that he adopted, and as I point out again and again, you know, the people like Liam, they develop instinctive ways to do normal things differently. So I think you should see it for yourself.
Hi, my name is Liam Deary. I'm 18 years old and I live in Brockville, Ontario, Canada. Since birth, I've been affected with a paralysis known as cerebral palsy as a result of a stroke. I've had a lifelong passion for music. I've loved listening to it. I've loved singing a lot of music, but it wasn't until I was 13 years old that I decided that I wanted to learn how to play the guitar. I took an unconventional approach to learning the instrument. I, to this day, only use one hand in all the techniques that I use when I play my instrument. I have such a passion for music, and recently I discovered your band, and I was absolutely excited and thrilled, and I was looking forward to when I was going to be able to see you. I recently just shot a video for your song Cover Me, and I really, really hope you like it.
Use your heart like a weapon, hold your love like a gun against my head, and I'm the fortunate one. Taking aim at the reason, little off the mark. Caught up in circles, now we're back to the start. A world apart, if you wanna it through the night, then darling, take your back off of the one and run to me. You're standing deep inside the fire, you're walking on a wire. Well, the rising storm will set our feet. Please run to me. Tripping over your lifeline, hanging round in your web. Untie the knot and follow through with your thread. I believe there's an answer in the ashes we lay. Untie the knot and follow through with your thread. The fire we set, if you wanna make it right, make it through the night, then darling, take your back off of the one and run to me. You're standing deep inside the fire, you're walking on a wire. Well, the rising storm will set our feet. Please run to me and cover me. The fire we set, if you wanna make it right, make it through the night, then darling, take your back off of the one and run to me. You're standing deep inside the fire, you're walking on a wire. Well, the rising storm was at our feet. Please run to me and cover me.
So his hero is Jeff Healy, and he only learned to play guitar 5 years ago. Pretty amazing. So anyway, that's the story of Liam and the presentation that was made by these two young men at the SEAC committee meeting. I guess there was another item of business, and that is that I think SEAC is perhaps looking at student representation possibly on the committee, and the organizations and their representatives present commented on their activities. So that's the end of my report, Chair.
Thank you very much. Well, comments or questions on that?
Wow.
It was certainly wow, and you know, I've met both of these young men in different capacities. One up at TIS, obviously, when I'm in there, and I met the other young boy. I think I was doing the commentating for that grade 8 basketball tournament, and I was choked up when they brought him onto the court and he played. And I give the team, I mean, he was just a part of the team, and the coaches were just unbelievable. Like these kids prove over and over again that anything is possible. Anything.
Absolutely.
Thank you, John, for doing that. It was amazing.
Great.
Okay, we're going to have remarks from the director. Oh, Trustee Swan?
Yeah, I'd just like to commend John on the information he provided. It was very inspirational, as well as the YouTube video that was provided on our website tonight with the music. I'm not really sure the real name of the song, but you can do it, or something like that. I love that song. And the youth there from our board that were featured on that, you can't not love it, and you can't not cheer for them, and I really hope that we as a board will support having youth on our SEAC committee. And anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Director.
I know this is our last meeting before the Christmas season, and I hope that everyone has a relaxing, restful break, and everybody comes back ready to go. 2014, it's been a fabulous year, and as the Vice Chair has alluded to during the meeting, 2013 was a very interesting year. We had a fabulous year when it comes to our work with our mental health. An outstanding year when we took a look at the creation of Upper Canada Cup and how that has served this community and served the kids so well. It's just today speaking to a couple of parents, one of my highlights in the course of the year was a grandparent who was stuck in a nursing home and probably will never come out, had the opportunity to watch her grade 8 granddaughter play volleyball. The commentator, that particular was a particularly skilled commentator. I think it was the vice chair at that point. And she just spoke about, and then if that was enough, a couple of months later, another one of our Upper Canada Cups on Upper Canada TV, we had a father who was doing business in Alberta, had the opportunity to watch his son play a basketball final. And he equally said that it's just wonderful to be on business, but they have the ability through our board to attend. And he spoke glowingly of it and just spoke about the value of communicating. Another important piece was the Labor Relations Board. Our board chose a very courageous stance and moved to that. And of course, when you choose to a courageous stance, and sometimes you walk alone, and the Trillium Lakeland board was with us. But again, at the end, taking a look at the fact that our schools made a solid commitment to their communities, and our buses ran, the kids attended, that needed to be there, and we made a statement that our board continues to make poverty a single giant issue, that mums and dads, we will be there for you, we'll be steady for you, we'll put your kids first. And finally, I think when you take a look at the work that we know we have to do in math, we know it's a province, and all of us understand it's probably a North American issue. We have to understand it, and I think we have come to grips with the fact that we're digging into it. But I also would like to comment that I think that the character that's showing up at this table, at both ends of the table, people are working very, very hard. And from my humble position, I would like to thank everyone for continuing to be so focused on students, and that this board and at the trustee level with governance, at the senior staff with all aspects of dealing with our schools and all of the competing, we continue to make every single decision, understanding that how does this impact student learning, student welfare, and the families of Eastern Ontario. I thank you for your dedication. I thank you for your commitment. And the people who are listening out there, thank you. And I think we're going to have a really fabulous 2014. I really do. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I know if Greg, our chair, was here, that he would echo a lot of what you said. I think that this has been a year that has brought the best out in everyone at this table, yes, both ends of the table. I think that he would speak of how proud he is of each and every trustee that's at this table. I know that I've been very privileged to have worked alongside of Greg and David McDonald, and I know the integrity and character that those two guys have, and it's the same integrity and character that every trustee at this table has. And I am personally very, very proud of what we've accomplished in the last 3 years. Most importantly, what we accomplished in the last year. I like how we all work together towards one goal, and that's what's best for our kids. We're paying close attention to our communities, paying close attention to what they're saying. We are moving forward leaps and bounds in our communication. I'm very proud of how open we are, how honest we are, how we admit that there are areas we have to improve in, and we openly discuss our obstacles. But the interesting thing is, behind every obstacle, we have incredible plans to move forward with those things. So I'm very proud of what we've done. So on behalf of Greg, and because he's not here, I will say this. I want everyone to have a very happy holiday. Have a great Christmas. Enjoy your families. be safe tonight going home. And all of us at this table look forward to 2014 because every year just gets better and better. So next year is just going to be an amazing year. So hang on, here we come, 2014. I need a motion to adjourn. Trustee Karkners, Trustee Buckland, thank you very much, everyone.
Lisa, thank you for